today in the 21st century, most people have been taught that the dinosaurs roamed the Earth 65 million years ago and mysteriously died off after a comet hit the Earth. Somehow, over millions of years, the surviving dinosaurs then evolved into the birds of today. This idea, though taught in almost every school and major university, has not been supported with evidence from history or the geologic record. It gives no explanation for the vast fossil graveyards found throughout the world, nor does it explain how many kinds of animals found in the fossil record remain alive to this day. Is there a better explanation? Is there scientific and archaeological evidence that gives a simple explanation for what happened to the dinosaurs? In this documentary, you will be given evidence that the dinosaurs have always existed with man. You will discover that ancient man frequently wrote of interactions with dinosaurs throughout recorded history, and you will see evidence to verify this. You will also be shown evidence that there could even be some dinosaurs that have survived to the present day. Finally, we will examine one of the most accurate and trusted historical records known to man, the Bible. The Bible gives a far different version of what happened in the history of ancient man that caused the extinction of most dinosaurs. We will look at its claims in light of the evidence that has been presented in this documentary. Before we start, consider this. We all have beliefs and ideas about what we think is true. These are called our presuppositions. Sometimes our presuppositions are true and sometimes they are false. When considering evidence, it is very difficult to set aside the presuppositions that we hold and look at evidence with an unbiased open mind. Truth is sometimes very hard to accept, especially if it is contrary to what we have believed. Much of the evidence that you will see in this video has been ignored by modern-day science, but a close examination of the evidence will reveal some startling conclusions. In 1841, the first use of the term Dinosauria, meaning terrible lizard, was created by the famous British anatomist and paleontologist Sir Richard Owen. He used the term for the first time at a meeting of the British Association for the Advancement of Science held in Plymouth. After that meeting, the word dinosaur rapidly became a popular term to describe these giant lizards that were being discovered by paleontologists. During the 1800s, after the first discovery of large dinosaur fossils, scientists began to search the rocks for clues to what had happened to these terrible lizards and other creatures that were buried in the earth. Unfortunately, they became focused on the rocks and buried fossils and failed to examine history for evidence of what had happened to these creatures. So what exactly does the historical record reveal about the dinosaurs? Remember that the word dinosaur was not even created until 1841. Even up until 1891, some dictionaries did not contain the word dinosaur. Prior to this, dinosaurs were known by other names. Every culture had names for them. For example, the name that you are probably the most familiar with is dragon. Even up until 1946, the word dragon was found in dictionaries and has in its definition this telling description. Names from other cultures include some of the following. Dragon history is nearly universal throughout the world's ancient cultures. Where did this global concept originate? Why is it so universal among cultures who were separated by continents? How did societies throughout the world describe, record, draw, etch, sew, and carve these creatures with such uniformity if they had not been eyewitnesses of them? Let's first examine the written historical record and then move on to the physical evidence. The reports of dragons range from personal encounter reports and science papers to legendary stories like Beowulf and the Loch Ness Monster. A well-known old science book, the Historia Animalium, claims that dragons were not extinct in the 1500s, but the animals were said to be extremely rare and relatively small by then. In 1572, a scientist named Ulysses Aldrovandus carefully described a small dragon seen along a farm road in northern Italy. The rare creature was killed by the farmer when he struck it on the head with his walking stick. Aldrovandus obtained the dead body and made measurements and a drawing. He even had the animal mounted for a museum. It had a long neck, a very long tail, and a fat body. The skeletons of a number of ancient reptile-like creatures called Tanystropius have similarities to the basic description that he gave. One dragon story from the ancient land of Sumer in Babylon tells of the hero Gilgamesh. He decided to make a name for himself by traveling to a distant land to cut great cedar trees needed for his city. He reached the forest with 50 volunteers and discovered a huge reptile-like animal which ate trees and reeds. The story simply says that Gilgamesh killed it and cut off its head for a trophy. Thousands of dragon stories and pictures can be found in ancient Chinese books and art. One legend tells about a famous Chinese man named Yu. The story says after the Great Worldwide Flood, Yu surveyed the land of China and divided it into sections. He built channels to drain the water off to the sea and help make the land livable again. Many snakes and dragons were driven off from the marshlands when Yu created the new farmlands. Some old Chinese books even tell of a family that kept dragons and raised them to use their blood and body parts for medicines. In 1611, the emperor appointed the post of royal dragon feeder. An Irish writer recorded an encounter with a large beast with iron-like spikes on its tail which pointed backwards. Its head had the shape of a horse's, and it had thick legs with strong claws. These details match features of dinosaurs like Kentrosaurus and Stegosaurus, which had sharp, pointed spines on their tails, thick legs, strong claws, and long horse-like skulls. The respected Greek explorer and historian Herodotus described small flying reptiles in ancient Egypt and Arabia. These animals sound amazingly like the small pterodactyl Rhamphorhynchus. They had the same snake-like body and bat-like wings. Many had been killed near the city of Buto in Arabia. He was shown a canyon with many piles of their backbones and ribs. Herodotus said that these animals could sometimes be found in the spice groves. They were small in size and of various colors. Large numbers would sometimes gather in the frankincense trees. When workers wanted to gather the tree's valuable juices, they would use smelly smoke to drive the flying reptiles away. The well-respected Grecian philosopher Aristotle said that in his time it was common knowledge that creatures like this also existed in Ethiopia. Similar animals, 3 feet long, were also described in India by the geographer Strabo. In Pliny's book Natural History, written around 70 AD, he says, Africa produces elephants, but it is India that produces the largest, as well as the dragon. Claudius Aelians, a Greek military writer of the 2nd century who wrote De Natura Animalium around 200 AD, in his work stated, The Phrygian history also states that dragons are born which reach 10 paces in length. 10 paces, that's about 30 feet. The city of Neuralic in France was renamed in honor of the killing of a dragon there. This animal was reported to be bigger than an ox and had long, sharp, pointed horns on its head. In 1271 AD, the great explorer Marco Polo recorded in his writings that the Chinese emperor had dragons that pulled his chariot on special occasions. And in his book, The Travels of Marco Polo, Polo records the following about the Chinese province of Kharzan. He states, Here are seen huge serpents 10 paces in length and 10 spans in girth of the body. At the forepart near the head, they have 2 short legs, having 3 claws, like those of a tiger, with eyes larger than a 4-penny loaf and very glaring. The jaws are wide enough to swallow a man. The teeth are large and sharp, and their whole appearance is so formidable that neither man nor any other kind of animal can approach them without terror. Others are met with of smaller size, being 8, 6, or 5 paces long. An Anglo-Saxon chronicle from AD 793 reported, This year came dreadful forewarnings over the land of the Northumbrians, terrifying the people most woefully. These were immense sheets of light rushing through the air, and whirlwinds, and fiery dragons flying across the firmament. Alexander the Great reported that when he conquered parts of what is now India in 326 BC, his soldiers were scared by great dragons that lived in caves. In 275 AD, legend says that George of Lydia, a Roman soldier in the guard of the Emperor Diocletian, killed a dragon while in Libya on a crusade. According to legend, in the 7th century a dragon named Garguet rose from the waters of the Seine River in France. Unlike the typical dragons of mythology, this one did not breathe fire but rather was a water dragon. The monster proceeded to lay waste to the countryside around Paris. Saint Romain, the Archbishop of Rouen, accompanied by only a condemned prisoner, set out to stop the beast. They captured the dragon and led it back to Paris, where it was slain and burned. The head, however, was saved and mounted on a building. In commemoration of this event, architects began to design gutter spouts in the shape of the Garguet, and eventually in the shape of all manner of bizarre creatures now called gargoyles. There are thousands of other legends of people seeing and killing dragons throughout history. Now let's take a look at the physical evidence that has been found that points to the existence of dinosaurs with man. What you're about to see, you will not see on the Discovery Channel, the History Channel, in the science textbooks, or in any secular publication. If you happen to see or hear something about any one of these discoveries, you will find that they will be attempts at debunking or proving them to be fake, fraud, or forgery. However, with careful examination of the facts that surround these discoveries, the truth is undeniable. The highly technical ancient civilization of the Nazca Indians flourished on the southern coast of Peru from around 1 AD to 750 AD. This culture produced an array of beautiful crafts and technologies such as ceramics, textiles, and geoglyphs. It is still not understood exactly how the Nazca produced their incredible geoglyphs called the Nazca lines. They also produced thousands of carvings on burial stones. These stone carvings, which are known as the Ica stones, are an enigma. There have been over 16,000 of these remarkable stones found over the past 50 years. They contain images of daily life, battle scenes, agriculture practices, medical procedures, advanced technologies, and most amazingly, dinosaurs. Many skeptics have tried to debunk the Ica stones by saying that they are a modern-day creation, but the evidence indicates differently. In 1535, Spanish conquistadors came through Peru in the area where the Nazca Indians had lived. They reported finding stones with strange animals carved on them. The designs and patterns on the stones also indicate that they were authentic from the Nazca culture, and of the 16,000, only about 500 had carvings of dinosaurs on them. Consequently, many of the carvings have nothing to do with the dinosaurs whatever. They were simply observations from everyday life of the Nazca culture. In Acambaro, Mexico, since the 1960s, over 56,000 ancient clay figurines have been discovered. Many of these clay artifacts are sculptures of dinosaurs. The approximate age of these clay figures is around 4,500 years old. Many people have studied these figures, and the opinion of their authenticity is divided. Most who have no preconceived biases believe that they are genuine, but others who believe that the dinosaurs died off millions of years ago state that they remain skeptical in spite of the radiocarbon dating and investigative evidence that points to their authenticity. 16th century Aztecs produced this dragon sculpture. The face resembles a dinosaur like the Tyrannosaurus rex. Several other South American and Central American civilizations have produced similar sculptures. These side-by-side comparisons are very revealing. These Central Andes artifacts bear a striking resemblance to dinosaurs like Tyrannosaurus rex and Ceratosaurus. And these Mexican figurines, created sometime between 300 BC to 300 AD, could be replicas of the dinosaur Ankylosaurus. China, an ancient land shrouded in dragon lore and mystery. The Chinese calendar, or zodiac, which was developed as early as 1000 BC, has on it 12 animals, 11 of which are alive today. But the 12th, the dragon, merely a legend? Or is it based on a real animal, the dinosaur? It doesn't seem logical that the ancient Chinese, when constructing their zodiac, would include one mythical animal with 11 common animals. A more rational explanation would be that the dragon, which is mentioned so often in ancient Chinese history, is now extinct or very rare. Here are a few examples of Chinese dragons that look extraordinarily like dinosaurs. Could this be some type of sauropod, like the Brachiosaurus? This Chinese pottery artifact looks very similar to the hadrosaur. And this 3rd century BC ornamental box appears to have sauropod dinosaurs built onto it as handles. This 2,500-year-old Chinese dragon closely resembles a creature like a Diplodocus. Central Asia, with its dense rainforests and jungles, is home to many stories about strange dinosaur-like monsters, and the artifacts that have been found are quite revealing. The similarities that these monsters and dragons have with dinosaurs is undeniable, and coupled with the modern and ancient stories of monsters that continue to be seen in the jungles, leads many to believe that one day one of these rare creatures could be captured or killed. This 12th century Cambodian temple, constructed in 1186 AD, is home to a very interesting dinosaur artifact. The temple is covered with ornate designs and stone carvings on its exterior. This carving of a Stegosaurus-like dinosaur was found on the temple wall. As late as the 1800s, the Dayak culture of Borneo was producing artwork with dinosaurs on them. This water fountain on a Hindu temple built in the creatures that live there that are apparently living dinosaurs. When they are shown pictures of different dinosaurs, they identify without hesitation the Hepatosaur and the Triceratops as creatures that they have observed in the swamp. The Hepatosaur that was identified by the natives has the name Mokele Mbembe. The tribesmen say that the creature lives mostly in the shallows of the swamp and is seen in the very early morning and at dusk. Mokele Mbembe is described as being mostly nocturnal and very territorial. Natives do not like to have encounters with this vicious creature. However, they say that they have killed and eaten the Mokele Mbembe before. Cryptozoologist Roy Mackal has explored portions of the African swamp and has written a book called A Living Dinosaur. The book details the regular encounters that tribal people have with the Mokele Mbembe and the search for evidence of its existence. This creature has been seen by many people, including African natives, explorers from the U.S., an African biologist, and government officials from the Republic of Congo. Unfortunately, because of the harsh environment and the dense swamp, no high-quality pictures have yet been taken of the creature. Around the same region of the Congo, the people tell of a creature they call Ngobu. When the natives are shown pictures of dinosaurs, they identify the creature as being very similar to the Triceratops and the Styracosaurus. It is described as having 6 horns and is known for killing elephants with them. Across the globe in South America, a dinosaur similar to Mokele Mbembe has been seen. For over 200 years, there have been reports of people seeing large reptile creatures that look like the extinct dinosaurs of the textbooks. In 1907, Colonel Percy Fawcett of the British Army was sent to mark the boundary waters between Brazil and Peru. Colonel Fawcett was an officer in the Royal Engineers and was well known as a meticulous recorder of facts. While in the Madre Swamp, Colonel Fawcett saw an animal he believed to be a Diplodocus. He also stated that stories of a creature that looks like the dinosaur Diplodocus were confirmed by many of the tribes east of Okale. Pterodactyls, flying reptiles which were thought to have gone extinct over 65 million years ago, are seen in many parts of the world today and in the recent past. Many legitimate reports have been recorded over the past 200 years. From San Antonio, Texas to South America in the Amazon rainforest to the islands of Papua New Guinea, people are still seeing these winged reptiles. The creatures have various names in different places throughout the world. In Papua New Guinea there are 3 known species which are called ropens, indava, and sekebale, and in the Congo they are called kongamato. These creatures are nocturnal and seldom seen during the day. This has been confirmed the world over. However, there are still a few sightings that occur during the day. The ropen of Papua New Guinea is seen occasionally by the native people. They say that the creature looks like a flying reptile with no feathers. When shown pictures of different birds and dinosaurs, they identify the ropen as looking very much like the pterodactyl. The people of New Guinea say that the ropen is a meat-eating, flying reptile that is mostly nocturnal. Its abdomen glows as if it has some sort of bioluminescent bacteria present in its intestines. In South Africa and Ethiopia, the natives describe a creature similar to the one seen in Papua New Guinea. They call the creature Kongomato. It is often seen in the jungles of South Africa. They are described as being featherless and nocturnal. One account from 1923 from Frank H. Melloland, an explorer and author, states that he collected reports from natives of an aggressive flying reptile they called Kongomato. He said that the natives were occasionally tormented by these creatures and described them as being featherless with smooth skin, having a beak full of teeth and a wingspan of between 4 and 7 feet. When shown illustrations of pterosaurs, Melloland reported, quote, "Every native present immediately and unhesitatingly picked out and identified it as Kongomato." Another account was given by Montana resident Dwayne Hodgkinson. Mr. Hodgkinson was in the Army in 1944 and stationed in New Guinea. While out on a trek to one of the local villages, a friend, a local guide, and Mr. Hodgkinson observed a very large pterodactyl take off from the ground and fly through the air. Mr. Hodgkinson states that he knows what he saw was a pterosaur, and this is a composite sketch of what he says he saw. His eyewitness story can be watched online at youtube.com. In 1971, Australian psychologist Brian Hennessy was in Papua New Guinea. He states that he and the men he was with saw a large flying creature that, in his words, looked prehistoric. He described the creature as having no feathers, black to dark brown in color, with a wingspan of at least 6 feet. He states that it also had a very long tail. There are many eyewitness accounts given by native peoples from Africa and New Guinea, but there have also been eyewitness accounts from people all over the world who have seen very large pterosaur-like flying creatures. The states in the U.S. where reputable accounts have come from include Alaska, Texas, California, South Carolina, and Washington State. The San Antonio Light, a newspaper of Texas State, reported on February 26, 1976, that 3 local school teachers were driving to work on an isolated road to the south of the city on February 24th when they saw an enormous bird sweeping low over cars on the road. They reported that the bird had a wingspan of 15 to 20 feet and leathery wings. After the incident, the teachers all identified the creature they saw as a pterodactyl. Some skeptics excuse these sightings with the explanation that the witnesses were just seeing giant fruit bats. The problem with this argument is that giant fruit bats, or flying foxes, do not fit the descriptions given by most of the eyewitnesses. The common features look nothing like fruit bats. They include a head with a pterodactyl-like protrusion, very long tail, very slow wing flap compared to bats, glowing bellies, and in many cases a much larger overall body size than the giant fruit bat. The fruit bat hangs upside down, and the ropen, by eyewitness accounts, is said to sit in an upright position when perched in trees. Also, these pterosaurs are seen in places where giant fruit bats are not found. The examples and testimonies given here are just that. They are a brief summary of evidence that exists. At the end of this video, you will be given a list of references including books and websites where you can learn more if you wish. If you do your own research, you can come to your own conclusions and make important decisions about what you believe about the world, history, the future, and how you fit into it. So now you might be asking yourself, how can this be? This doesn't fit with what I've learned about the dinosaurs in history. The dinosaurs were supposed to have died off millions of years ago. How did they survive? Why does it even matter? The Bible gives simple, rational explanations for all these questions, and in fact has answers for many questions that you might have. You ask, can the Bible be trusted? Here are some facts about the trustworthiness of the Bible. No other ancient document or book even comes close to the Bible in terms of total supporting evidence for accuracy and trustworthiness in passing down of information contained in it. There are over 24,000 ancient manuscripts of the New Testament that exist today. The Old Testament, also called the Torah, has stood the test of time as well, and with the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls in 1947, verified once and for all that the Old Testament has been transcribed with amazing accuracy down through the ages. These manuscripts prove that the copyists took great care in going about their work passing along the Bible in an unchanged form. No scholar has a problem trusting Homer's Iliad, which had only 643 supporting manuscripts, with the oldest copy being written 500 years after Homer actually wrote his work. There are only 7 manuscripts that remain of Plato's works today, yet no scholar has a problem trusting these 7 manuscripts are authentic and trustworthy, even though the manuscripts that remain are copies that were written over 1,000 years after Plato wrote his originals. 2 historians whose works are quoted as fact on a regular basis are Herodotus and Thucydides. 8 of each of their manuscripts remain, and these were copies of copies that were written 1,300 years after the originals, yet no one has a problem trusting what is written in these manuscripts. Just think, 24,000 manuscripts from many different locations surviving for centuries that, when compared, verify that the Bible has been accurately transcribed and passed down through the ages. You might ask, are all of these accurate copies actually factual information? Did what was written in the Bible really take place? Are the people, places, and events real? After all, Homer's Iliad was just a fable. What about the Bible? The renowned Jewish archaeologist Nelson Glueck once said, "It may be stated categorically that no archaeological discovery has ever controverted a biblical reference. Scores of archaeological findings have been made which confirm in clear outline or exact detail the historical statements in the Bible." Many times critics of the Bible have pointed to supposed biblical flaws, only to have archaeology later discredit their arguments. The Bible has been validated by the discovery of literally hundreds, if not thousands, of verifying artifacts and archaeological discoveries. The plethora of artifacts could fill several lengthy videos. Here are a few of them. The tomb and remains of Caiaphas the high priest were discovered by workers constructing a road just south of the old city of Jerusalem. Caiaphas was the high priest who handed Jesus over to the Romans and also persecuted the early church. He was mentioned numerous times in the New Testament and also in Josephus' history called Antiquities. The tomb of Cyrus the Great, mentioned in the Bible books Isaiah, 2 Chronicles, and Ezra, was discovered in Iran outside the ancient city of Pasaragde. Over 50 prominent figures mentioned in the Old Testament